I think everybody knows that I'm a huge fan of all those great albums from the 70s and the 80s. And I was thinking about I need to do another video. I haven't done one in a week or so. 4th of July weekend. So I was trying to think of a topic. I'm not one of these people that just kind of nothing wrong. I'm not pointing fingers at other people who do videos, but I don't like to just kind of get up and, hey, here's 10 records I recently picked up. I like to conceptualize and come up with some kind of a connecting theme. You guys all know that. I'd really like to pay tribute to some of those great session players who were in the background but played pivotal roles on so many albums that I love. And today I want to talk about Steve Lukather. Now, you may be thinking, Steve Lukather, founding member of Toto, the only current standing member of Toto who was still one of the founders and still plays live with Toto. Props to Luke. And but the other thing about Steve Lukather, he was a prolific session player. He started out, I think, in 1977 when he was 19 years old. And little known fact, Steely Dan were thinking about putting together a tour in 77, 78. And he, along with Denny Diaz, were going to be the two guitar players on that tour. Now, the tour never happened, unfortunately, but that tells you something about the chops that Steve Lukather has and the great hang that Steve Lukather is. Go watch the Rick Beato interview with Steve from a few months ago. It's fantastic. But yeah, Steve Lukather, legendary session player. I think he played on like 1,500 albums. And in many cases, he was a first call, hey, we need something interesting. We need a good idea on this song. We need a good guitar solo. Lukather would get the call more often than not. So I've got 5 records. 5 records that many of you probably know and love just like I do. And I want to pay tribute to Steve Lukather. I'm going to call this new series Hired Guns. And we'll do some more as we move forward here with some videos. But today I wanted to start with Luke. In 1983, Randy Newman, the iconic, sarcastic LA troubadour, composer, just a fantastic musician. We got the Trouble in Paradise record with the iconic hit. There's a video out there as well for it. Steve Lukather is in the video, and he got the guitar solo on the song. So there it is, Trouble in Paradise. Listen to I Love LA. It's a love letter to Los Angeles. There's a who's who of session greats and known recording artists like Don Henley all over this record, and it's a great listen. If you like Randy Newman, this is one of his less heralded albums, but the I Love LA song was a huge hit, and that's what the record is known for. Despite the original hype sticker, the duet with Paul Simon, somewhat forgettable. But I Love LA is the great track off of this album, and Steve Lukather has got a signature great guitar solo on it. So why did people call Steve Lukather? Well, A, he had incredible chops, has incredible chops. B, he has incredible feel and just great sense of timing. And a lot of times he would nail what was needed in oftentimes one, maybe 2 takes. Maybe he had to do a little touch up on that first take and punch in 2 bars. But in an incredible player, an incredible sense for what the groove is, and what just seems to be right for that song. 1982, the Eagles had disbanded, and Glenn Frey and Don Henley were, of course, working on their solo albums, as well as I think Timothy B. Schmidt had something going on, Don Felder as well, and of course Joe Walsh. But the I Can't Stand Still album, great record. Sounds great as well. Mastered at the Mastering Lab, Doug Sachs. Now, the first song on side 2 is the iconic single Dirty Laundry. I love the first solo in that song, which is Joe Walsh, and it's a signature Joe Walsh solo. But the second solo by Lukather is even better, in my opinion. It just kind of goes places, and this is a great example for Lukather's imagination and his ideas about, serving the song with a solo. This solo kind of takes off from Joe Walsh's solo and goes in different places and different directions. Lukather is known for kind of bending notes, and a little bit of vibrato is always used as well. And I just love the feel of that solo number 2 for Dirty Laundry and the 82 album I Can't Stand Still. Now, in 1978, Alice Cooper was working with, believe it or not, David Foster and Bernie Taupin. And they needed kind of a rock guitar guy. David Foster called in Steve Lukather. Now, the great Dick Wagner was there, Davy Johnstone as well. And Steve Lukather had a pivotal role on the kind of nasty groove that is Nurse Rosetta. And it's a signature groove from Steve Lukather on that song. That kind of brooding rhythm track that, we would hear that song, about 4 more years down the road on a very important landmark album that I'm saving for last. You probably know what it is. But really cool groove on Nurse Rosetta. And then he also was a co-writer on the first song on side 2, which is Sirius. But that is From the Inside. I've got a promo copy of this record. It sounds great. And of course, the big FM radio hit was How You Gonna See Me Now, which is a huge ballad for Alice Cooper. And this was definitely a concept album. If you haven't heard it or don't know about it, check it out. It's a departure for Alice Cooper, but it's a great record. Now, in 1981, Rickie Lee Jones came out with her follow-up to her 1979 self-titled debut. That, of course, was Pirates. There is that kind of classic cover from the record. Now, I love this album because we have a lot of people involved that were involved in all of the great Steely Dan records. We've got Chuck Rainey, for the most part, on bass on this record. We've got Steve Gadd on drums. We've got Victor Feldman on various percussion instruments. The one and only Donald Fagen is playing synthesizer on the title track. And the title track is one of the more rockier songs on this album. This is really a piano singer-songwriter record. I think Ricky was influenced from Springsteen and Laura Nyro for this record. And a lot of the sound signatures, you can see where those influences are coming from. The title track has got a great groove to it as well. It leads off with Steve Gadd coming out of your speakers and kind of a lead-off drum signature, and it kind of takes off from there. But in the pocket, Chuck Rainey, Steve Gadd. You've got Lukather with great rhythm guitar, and there's not a lot of soloing involved on this record as far as guitar is concerned, but you can definitely hear Steve Lukather's kind of signature rhythm riffs going on in the background, and in some cases in the foreground. All the players on this song are amazing. I'm talking about Pirates, So Long, Lonely Avenue, Steve Gadd, Buzzy Fightin', Dean Parks, Lukather, Ricky Lee Jones keyboards, David Sanborn saxophone, Tom Scott saxophone, Donald Fagen synthesizer, Randy Brecker trumpet, Lenny Castro percussion, Feldman on percussion, and of course Ricky Lee Jones on lead vocals. This is a masterpiece record, and kind of an understated record as far as the work that Lukather contributed, but it's tasty. Okay, last but not least, 1982, the monster Michael Jackson album, Thriller. I have an original pressing. I have an early original pressing. You can kind of tell by, if you look at the producer credit, it's just Quincy Jones. Michael wanted to be added to that. He wanted to have a co-producer credit, so you will see that on later pressings. Of course, this was a classic gatefold record, and so many people involved in this thing that are iconic names. First of all, Quincy Jones, the main producer on the record, and he brought in Jeff Porcaro to play drums on this thing. Jeff Porcaro, an amazing drummer. For sure, he'll be featured in an upcoming episode because he has so many sessions that he was involved in and so many iconic records. Steve Porcaro, keyboards, and had a lot to do with the shaping of at least one huge hit on this record, Human Nature. He's a co-writer on the song. But Steve Lukather on Beat It. Now, of course, Eddie Van Halen, everybody knows the solo in the middle of the song, but Steve Lukather really laid down the groove on that song, and it's an iconic riff, and it sounds amazing. Now, legend has it is that Eddie did his solo in a different key than what was called for, and they had to go back and kind of re-record some of the rhythm backing tracks to the song. So Lukather went back and did some re-recording, and apparently he wanted to kind of echo what Eddie had. He heard Eddie's solo, and his jaw dropped, and he said, "Well, I've got to kind of come up to par with that, and we've got to rock this riff out a little bit. This needs to be kind of hot and nasty." And they brought it back to Quincy after everything was kind of remixed, and Quincy said, "No, man, you gotta, I need this is a pop record. You need to go back and tone this thing down. Just use one of the, just go get a little Fender amp and don't turn it all the way up. You can rock it a little bit, but don't turn that thing up to 11. And, no distortion, please." So that is the final take that you hear on Beat It. And then Lukather also had a lot to do with Human Nature. That really smooth backing track to Human Nature. It's a gorgeous song and pivotal in coming up with the feel for that song as well. That is 1982's Thriller, an important record as far as Steve Lukather is concerned as well. 5 great records that Steve Lukather played pivotal roles in, even if it was just coming in on one song and dropping an incredible solo like Trouble in Paradise, the 1983 Randy Newman album. Thanks, everybody. We will be back soon with something new and maybe different. Take care.